All right, everyone. We start off today talking about how the Unipartyists in Congress are continuing to warmonger in the nation of Syria. As you know, we have a few hundred troops there. It's a very small contingency of people in the middle of Syria in a war zone. That conflict may have settled down some, but there are still active operations, also involving the Iranians from time to time going on within that region. Spills over into Iraq. ISIS does still exist, although they've been badly beaten back. The FSA is still there. There are other partisan and insurgent groups as well. The area is a clusterfuck, and U.S. involvement made it worse. One of the greatest victories of Trump was stepping back, minimizing the U.S. role, and allowing the Russians and the Iranians to go in and pound ISIS on behalf of an ally. Worked pretty well. Worked far better. You'll notice that ISIS seems to have decreased from its peak under Obama, when we were actively helping people that were working with them and occasionally just giving up the second that ISIS showed up and giving them all the weapons and goods that we had given the FSA. Unfortunately, Congress has voted to maintain our presence in Syria. Matt Gaetz actually brought forth a resolution. It's one of those resolutions I think that Kevin McCarthy promised would actually come to a vote in private. And at least he did that. To his credit, McCarthy's acting better than McConnell is, so who just had a fall the other day. We're not sure about his condition, but, one can hope. The turtle fell and couldn't get up. He was probably lying on his back literally like a turtle after his fall, by the way. So, warmongers, I don't really have much sympathy for them. So, fuck them. Matt Gaetz actually is distinguishing himself, too, with this particular vote. I support the measure myself. Here's the problem. The first problem is that it was effectively a bipartisan rejection of the concept. The majority of Republicans and Democrats in the House voted nay. So the majority of people in both parties, just so that the leftoids out there understand this too, most of the people in both parties just voted to continue maintaining a very small, indefensible flashpoint in an active war zone. And that's really what this is, and here's the problem. When you leave a very small number of troops in harm's way that have no real operative capabilities, it's a few hundred people. Yeah, they're capable of holding out against a couple of waves of Saracens on horseback or something like that. Ultimately, if any of the other major parties, any of the other major players in the area mustered, they could overrun the base and take several hundred troops captive or kill them. Maybe they make propaganda torturing them like ISIS always likes to do. I'm sure they'd be very happy about the ability to do so. The only reason to continue maintaining it is as a deliberate flashpoint. Basically, we're here, and if you fire a shot across the bow, then it means that we have a reason to go in further, to drop more troops in the zone and overrun Syria and oust Assad and screw around doing world policing and nation building. Which, by the way, would cripple Syria since, part of the country is currently occupied by hostile forces that we wouldn't be able to tangle with directly without an even more direct confrontation with Russia than we already have in Ukraine. It's pointless. Trump tried to draw down those troop totals, and the Uniparty deep staters were so mad about the concept that they had the Syrian envoy lie to him about how many troops were left in Syria. By the way, you never saw any follow-up reporting on that very, very disturbing story. They're probably lying to Sleepy Joe about the troop totals too. Not that it matters. He has no clue what the fuck's going on. He barely knows his own name sometimes. So this is condemnable. What good are a few hundred U.S. troops actually going to be able to do in Syria? And Assad has reestablished power, more or less, over large swaths of the country. The FSA is still there, but it's not exactly, a force to be reckoned with. They got pit bombed as well by the Iranians and the Russians. Again, it was basically a situation where U.S. policy had two choices that it could make. We could go with the Obama plan. We could arm the FSA and hope that they harass Assad, and Turkey almost getting involved too, by the way, because of the Kurdish militias in the region. We can do that, but at the same time we're creating a power vacuum that ISIS is filling. Or we could do the Trump plan, which is what we did for several years and it worked, which was pull back and allow the Russians to deal with it, without any expenditure of our own manpower or money. But why do we still have this one remnant presence left in Syria? It's not a country, it's not an ally, so they haven't asked us to be there. that it isn't enough troops or enough firepower to do anything meaningful beyond the municipality that it's located in, so it's not force projection. And they're sitting ducks. It's a few hundred people. I hate to tell you this, but the FSA probably has enough forces to overrun the base, even in its badly embattled form. It's just a sitting duck waiting for an IED or something like that to spark a calamity, to spark a war. And this seems to be the strategy of the deep staters. They want that there sort of as a ha-ha to Assad, especially probably to the Iranians too. Hey, we're here and you can't do anything about it. And it's only costing us a small amount of a few tens of millions of dollars a month or something like that to maintain the base and the people that are there. It's a terrible, terrible idea for us to be involved in these areas. Why aren't these troops somewhere where they're actually needed and wanted? Send them to Poland. Poland loves it. Send them to the DMZ or something like that. Send them somewhere more hospitable too. You know, after years in the desert of Syria, I'm sure that they could use a different climate. Send them down to Guyana along the Venezuelan border and say, give a fuck you to Maduro. Oh wait, we're working with him now. We throttled our own domestic energy production so we could buy oil from Maduro in order to prop up a communist regime. This diplomacy right now that we're engaging in is off the wall. I can't see a single instance in which things are working. Does it seem to be working to de-escalate tension between West Taiwan and the Lord of all China, which is the island of Taiwan? Is it de-escalating in Korea? What about in Ukraine? Oh, we're making so much progress there. So why should we believe that our tiny presence here in Syria is going to help any fucking goddamn thing? There's no point to it. It's useless. It's a relic of the nation building of the W and Obama administrations, the Bush-Obama era, that we desperately need to get past. It's also another aspect of globalism. Hey, we can strike out from here preemptively if we need to and hold the area till backup arrives, basically. They should have voted in favor of drawing down the troops. And it's rather sad that so many Republicans joined so many of their Dem colleagues in continuing to waste money in a forever war. It's rather regrettable. You'll notice it's a very, very strange bedfellows moment because a plurality of the progressive, like leftoid Dems, they voted to remove the troops. And so did the MAGA Republicans. It also shows you the differential in the power between the hardened and softened cores of those groups. It's way bigger in the Republican Party. Whereas the neocon, neolib sort of incorporated people virtually all voted in favor of maintaining the troop totals. Why? None of them seem to be able to tell us why. What role specifically is fulfilled in this particular mission? What good is being accomplished? Let's not even talk about ethics or World War III brinksmanship or anything like that. Pragmatically, just in terms of pure pragmatism, what exactly is the point of it? If there's no point to something, it shouldn't be done. It's not necessary. You're expending money and potentially causing a flashpoint to arise in the future, and you're not accomplishing anything. You'd need 10 times that many troops just within that region to do anything meaningful. They wouldn't be invited. They'd be embattled every time they left the walls, and it still wouldn't do any good. Either shit or get off the pot. Make it clear that we're going to go to war with Assad and press the Iranians and the Shia groups in Iraq and start a regional war, or get the fuck out. We've got bigger titties to lick. We've got other things that we could be focusing on right now, like China arming up to the teeth, or the war in Ukraine, or the DMZ flashpoint, or something like that. We could be worried about the Spratlys. We could be worried about the fact that Maduro still occasionally references invading Guyana. We could be worried about fucking Chinese spy balloons. That would be more meaningful. Why don't you put those troops along the Alaskan border with long-range rifles and give them hot air balloons so they can go up and poke a few holes in them or something? Ultimately, at the end of the day, that wackadoodle Looney Tunes sort of thing would probably be more useful than what's happening currently in Syria. So good on Matt Gaetz for bringing forth the resolution, and for the MAGA Republicans and, ironically, the leftoid Dems for voting in favor of it, but it shows us we have a ways to go to get rid of the neocon, neolib filth that's been cluttering up Congress now for decades. That's about all. Peace out.